Hi, um, this is Billy, and I was commissioned to talk about one of my favorite horror movies for 20 minutes, and so that's what I'm gonna try to do. um, One of my favorites in the last 5 years would be Fresh, which came out in 2022. The film was directed by Mimi Cave and written by Lauren Kahn. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically, it kind of starts off like a rom-com. And, this woman is sort of trying to find the right guy, and she keeps having issues with dating. And, then she meets this guy who seems perfect on paper, but he's a little weird. He's like a surgeon. He doesn't have any social media or anything, which, causes her and her best friend to be a little sketched out about. And sort of the plot twist 30 minutes into the film is that the guy that she's dating is actually a cannibal. And not only is he a cannibal, is he kidnaps her specifically to harvest her meat and keep her alive until he uses all of her up. And then he sells her on the black market. Is a really crazy premise. It's so good. I mean, I think I've seen it I don't know, 12 times, which I know seems like a lot, especially considering it only came out 2 years ago. But I don't know, there's just something about this film that I just really love so much. I think just the topic itself, that's really good. I think cannibalism as like a metaphor for love or for, sort of consuming someone literally is kind of romantic, like in a fictional way. Like I don't think that it's something that I would actually do in real life or is appropriate in real life. But I just think it's such an interesting concept, and it's something that I really love seeing explored in fiction. And yeah, I think that Fresh does a really good job of it because initially, it's sort of romantic, but then you see that the bad guy, played by Sebastian Stan, he initially seems really interested in the main character, which is named Noah. And it seems like even throughout the film, after he admits that he's this cannibal guy, that he still really likes her. But, sort of at the end of the day, he really does just see her, as a piece of meat, as something to be consumed. And I think that's really interesting because the film has like a lot of really good themes around sort of dating, and specifically like at the very beginning of the film, Noah, the main character, goes on this sort of shitty date. And the guy is like, kind of a flake, and he's very rude, and he's kind of racist to the waitress of the Thai place that they go to. I think it was Thai. And he's just kind of awful, right? And so this is kind of part of why she's so enamored by the bad guy, Steve, is because he seems so perfect. And it's I think it's just really interesting commentary also on just sort of like men like the bad guy, Steve, will often put this sort of feminist leaning leftist, I'm one of the good guys facade on, and actually be kind of shitty underneath. I feel like I'm seeing that personally more and more socially. It's just these sort of predators who kind of, just wear this mask of being progressive when in reality they're just really not. And you can really see this with Steve, the bad guy, because throughout the movie, when he gets mad, he punishes her. At one point, he forces her basically to wear this like pink dress that's very feminine, and it's a callback, in my opinion, to the date that she went on in the very beginning. Because in the very beginning, the shitty date that she went on, said to her you could do to dress a little bit more feminine. And so I thought it was interesting that, the guy that she didn't like in the beginning says this to her. And then also Steve later is the one who gives her this dress. And, obviously I'm talking about this film extensively, so there's going to be spoilers. So, and there's just like so many really great details in the film. Like at the very beginning of the film where Noah is grocery shopping because she runs out of food. And she first meets Steve. You can see that when the camera is on her, it says fresh meats. So it's like, it was such a little like tongue in cheek, sort of like clue as to kind of where the film was going. And, if you can, obviously you can't go into this film blind if you're listening to this, review or me talking about it. But, if you can find people who don't know anything about this film and just, go into it blind, that's like the perfect film viewing of this film. Because when I watched this film, I didn't know that it was about cannibals, or that it had anything to do with cannibals. So, and it's so rare, and I'm not sure, how much you know about film, but, typically the title of the movie is done with that within probably the first 10 minutes, I would say 15 minutes at the most. So the fact that the title card did not appear until about 30 minutes into the film was pretty rare. So for someone who's going into this blind, they think it's probably just a rom-com, or like some weird other thing. But and I think that's part of what makes this film so unique. I also really like that it was written and directed by women. I think that as someone who really appreciates horror movies, not enough women get credit for, the work that they do in this film genre. It is very much dominated by men, like everything else, I guess. And yeah, I just, I feel like it added like some really wonderful touches, because the experiences that Noah goes through in this with dating and stuff, and the commentary that it makes on modern dating, and her relationship with her best friend, who is named, what's her name? Molly. So she has this best friend named Molly who helps her out a bunch in the film. And just the dynamic that her and Molly have, I think is really, it's like a really natural and very like good or well-written friendship between two women in a film. And I just love their dynamic. I mean, it's completely platonic, but it's just such a deep friendship. And I think too, Molly's character, she gets so many bad vibes from Steve, because he's kind of suspicious. He doesn't have social media, he doesn't like getting pictures taken of himself and things like that. And so I love how much Molly does for her best friend Noah. And I think it's this movie in general, I think is a real girls movie. It truly, especially with the climax, like it shows just how much women can do and get done together, and what sticking together really does for women. It's key for their survival, especially in the dating world. So there's just a lot of parallels and stuff to the dating world. That's the current dating world that I really like as well. There's also commentary on like sort of, in the United States, or you might hear this on the internet in general. There's this phrase called pick me. And it basically means like, pick me. And it's sort of like marginalized groups or people or genders who sort of side with their oppressors. They try to sort of be one of the good ones, in a sense. And so one of the victims of Steve, you find out that he ended up marrying. And, she doesn't necessarily seem very like in love with him or anything like that. We don't know if she's like been sort of forced into this marriage with him, but towards the end we see that she's very much part of this organization, part of the cannibal thing. She very much wanted to be in it, and she tries to kill Noah and Molly and let's see, who's the other character that was kidnapped? Penny. Penny is one of the other girls who survives and is kidnapped. She tries to kill them so that she can continue being, living her lifestyle of, this rich doctor's wife and, cannibal lady. And I thought that was really interesting because, like here we have Molly, Penny, and Noah, who are like these girls helping each other out, doing everything they can to survive together. And then you have, this opposing force, which is Anne, the Steve's wife. Her name is Anne. You have this opposing force, which is like, she's also sort of like a metaphor for that sort of traitor. And I think that that's also just, it's just really good commentary on, sort of that divide that you can see in women sometimes. And I think it's interesting too, because you can sort of see it as, like Anne, Steve's wife, maybe she initially went along with Steve for survival, went along with Steve for this sort of way of getting out alive. But at the end of the day, she ends up having kids with him. She ends up having a house with him, having a life with him, and approving of his lifestyle, essentially, or encouraging it at least. And, maybe that's sort of a direct parallel to women in our society, sort of going along with these like very macho chauvinistic men so that they can live like a more comfortable life, despite possibly sort of throwing other women under the bus. I think that is sort of, the definition of a pick-me. And it's kind of sad because, it's for survival. It's because this person doesn't want to go through suffering and pain and wants to escape that as much as possible. But, at the end of the day, you end up, again, throwing everyone else under the bus. And, I personally, I don't think that's very nice, especially, if you want to see like long lasting change in something. But I think there's so many things about this movie. I mean, it's just, the casting is really great. Daisy Edgar Jones is amazing. Sebastian Stan is very attractive. He is very good in this film. He plays, the character just so perfectly. And I think that's part of why I enjoy this movie so much and why I've seen it so many times, is just because his performance in this is just amazing. And I think one thing that I really like in horror in general is I really love when horror kind of like sprinkles gore throughout the film versus just like inundating you with it. Like, I hate movies like Terrifier. And I know for some horror people that's, huge upset and, don't at me, but sorry. I think that just stuff like that, when you see so much of that gore just coming at you over and over and over, you get desensitized to it, and it just doesn't do anything for you. And also that you not only do you get desensitized to it, but you're staring at it for so long, you're able to sort of see the imperfections. You're able to see where the, fake props are. The more you stare at the gore, the more you realize how fake it looks or how fake it is. Even the best practical effects and whatnot, like you can still eventually get to a point where you start to notice, what's fake and what's real. And that's why I really like Fresh too, because whenever the gore is there, it's very tasteful. There's a scene where Noah is getting punished by Steve because she tries to break away while she takes a shower, and he ends up doing surgery on her, and he removes one of her left buttocks, or her right buttocks, and you don't see it, but what you do see is this large slab of flesh get like put onto the scale, and you only see it for less than a second. It's so quick, but it's just so quick and just so the sound effects and everything, it's just so real that it just sits with you, and it squicks me out even a little bit just talking about it. And the thing is the longer I stare at it, the more fake that it looks to me. But when I first saw it, it's so quick. Your brain sort of fills in the rest of it. And for me, like there's a scene where Steve is preparing meat, like a human leg, and he it's on display for quite a bit. And looking at it, I stared at it for a while, and I was like, oh, that's pork. That's like very like well prepared pork to look like human. And I still enjoy the film. I'm not gonna let that ruin it. But again, it's like when you don't see a lot of it, when it's only there for a flash, I feel like it does hit harder. And personally, like, I think with gore and just a lot of these like more extreme subjects and stuff, I think that it works better and it's scarier when it's something that is sort of implied or inferred. I think your imagination is a lot scarier than the things that you can see in a horror movie. I think that's why also for me, reading books is often scarier, because your imagination is very vivid, and when you imagine things, you're imagining things that feel real. So the things in your head feel more real than the things that you're seeing a lot of the times in these horror movies. Another thing about the film that I really like, the soundtrack is very good. It's not even necessarily that I like the music specifically that's used. Like I wouldn't necessarily listen to it like on Spotify or something, but it still goes so well. Like the score overall and the songs that are chosen in this film, the soundtrack, it's just very well done. Everything really fits well. I mean, especially the scene where Sebastian Stan's character Steve is like dancing and preparing meat, human meat and whatnot. It's so funny and so hilarious and so wonderfully done. I mean, this film, I got to give it a 10 out of 10. It's an amazing film. It is truly one of my favorite films in the last 5 years. It's to me, it's like a modern classic. It's just something that, like, I don't really know if another film will grab me the same way in terms of like creeping me out, being really funny, being beautifully shot, the subject matter, the acting. I mean, just everything about it is just so fun. And if you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend checking it out, even though I've spoiled like all of it. It's clearly something still really good if you know the whole plot. I mean, again, I've watched it like 12 times. I'm probably going to watch it another 12 times in the next year. And yeah, it's just, I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Like, see it right away. And if you can, pull anyone else that in to see it and just have them watch it blind, just make sure that they're okay to watch a horror movie. But if you can get those people and just show it to them and just have it be completely blind, it's completely amazing. Well, thank you so much for listening to me ramble about this movie. I love horror. Horror is my favorite genre. It inspires a lot of my writing and my voice work. So if you enjoyed this, maybe I'll do more. But otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much.